weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her.
Rum links, 2, 3, rum links, 2, 3, wo der Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn.
Drum links 2, 3, drum links 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein.
Drum links 2, 3, drum links 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Welcome to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is where we watch the real socialist activists, not your AOC socialists, not your Bernie Sanders socialists, although Bernie Sanders was in Manchester, New Hampshire today giving a very important speech. So we'll keep an eye on that. We don't watch CNN socialists. We don't watch champagne socialists like Vosh. On Socialism Saturday, we watch the real deal, the boots on the ground, socialist activists that you never hear about on the news, that your right-wing influencers never talk about, because we found out about a year ago. Next week is actually the 1-year anniversary of Socialism Saturday. We found out about a year ago that if you watch the real socialist activists from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you will discover that years ago, they were using the talking points that the Democratic Party is using today. And what that means is that it is the crazy far left socialists that are actually driving the political agenda that we all get to experience just a couple years after they start talking about it in coffee shops and conference presentations and stuff like that. And yes, my dogs are apparently joining today because my husband has left the house. And of course, my dogs have to bark when my husband leaves the house for some reason. That's all right. She's a Chihuahua. She doesn't know better. All right. Guys, welcome to Socialism Saturday. We have got a great presentation today because every once in a while, I like to check back in on the Democratic Socialists of America. Because the Democratic Socialists of America, they aren't actually the farthest left activists. There are way more far left people than the Democratic Socialists of America. But the Democratic Socialists of America, believe it or not, actually do have quite a bit of success in getting people elected to office. It's like, this is where your AOCs. AOC is the Democratic Socialist. Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialist. The entire squad basically are Democratic Socialists. But not only on the federal level, they have actually quite a bit of success getting local candidates elected to office. And so we do need to keep an eye on them. It's just the way it goes, and that's what we're going to be doing today. James Jones says, we need a 5-year plan. Do we ever, James Jones? Do we ever? So, yesterday, the Democratic Socialists of America uploaded the presentations from their 2023 convention to their YouTube channel. Now, they don't live stream their convention anymore. They learned their lesson a couple of years ago when they live streamed their convention to YouTube, and then people just saw this massive shit show about people arguing what position they were in line based on progressive stack, which is the woke oppression hierarchy, and it was crazy. We actually have watched that before. If you haven't seen it, it's a hoot. You can find about an hour-long clip of it on YouTube somewhere. So they don't live stream their convention anymore. However, what we do have is recorded presentations from the Democratic Socialists of America 2023 convention. And the one that I selected to watch is this one, a plenary panel about the future of the Democratic Socialists of America. The organization is at a critical moment for deciding how we move forward to build a working class movement. Looking at the challenges that we've had and the present political stakes, what kind of socialist organization does the current political moment call for, and how do we build that organization? That's what we're going to be watching tonight, guys. Now, I will tell you that part of the reason that I selected this particular presentation is because I have double checked and the sound actually works. They got the sound right for this one, which you actually can't say for all the presentations, because I wanted to watch the presentation that I wanted to watch was multiracial organizing across identity differences, but the sound on that one was so bad that like I couldn't even make it out. So socialists sometimes get their stuff together. Thankfully, they have provided us with one session tonight where the sound is working. There's some other sessions as well. They've got a couple keynotes, stuff like that. But we're going to be watching this main one about the future of the Democratic Socialists of America to find out what their plans are for moving forward. Now, I got a couple orders of housekeeping before we get started. Number one, I want to give a big shout out to Sin. Sin posted this poem in her Substack, and let me just pop this into the chat below, just so if you haven't subscribed to Sin's Substack yet, please go ahead and make sure you subscribe to Sin's Substack. I'll pop it in the chat over on Rumble for people watching there as well. This is a little haiku that Sin wrote in honor of Socialism Saturday. Clearly, she is a ballad, spouting her unrhymed thoughts formed thunder in the stream. I wonder who that could be about. I wonder who that haiku is in honor of. Thank you, Sin, for this gift that you have given us today, and maybe the recipient of this haiku will show up a little bit later. I guess we'll have to see. But another thing I wanted to talk about is this. Laura Loomer today. This is actually, guys, this is proof positive. I want to show you guys something. This is proof positive that that we are years ahead of the conservative influencers. This is one of the benefits to attending Socialism Saturday. Listen, Socialism Saturday is your advanced AP class in what the actual far left is doing. And I truly think that we are the only non-socialists on the internet who actually sit down and watch this stuff on a regular basis. Yes, it can be tough to get through. Yes, they use funny language. Yes, we don't always understand what they're saying, but through osmosis, we learn to speak socialist. But the reason that we do this is that we are so far ahead of where the conservative right is in their understanding of what's going on. And I have proof of that today. Laura Loomer posted this video on Twitter. She said, Fulton County, Georgia is a hotbed for communist recruiters like Fulton County DA Fannie Willis. About a block away from the Fulton County Courthouse in Atlanta, I saw several of these communist recruitment posters plastered on the street corners. The posters say, "Are you a communist? Then get organized." And the posters have a QR code that takes you directly to socialistrevolution.org with instructions on how to sign up for this Marxist training that they do all over the country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the reason I bring this up is that if you are a regular viewer of Socialism Saturday, you already knew about these people. You already knew about them because we've watched them on Socialism Saturday. We recently, actually very recently, we watched this presentation from, and this is their YouTube channel, the organization that Laura Loomer's pointing out. Very recently, we watched this presentation, Why the U.S. is Heading Towards Revolution. We also previously watched this presentation about the George Floyd uprising, and I had already reported on these classes because I was kind of thinking about going to one. I'm not going to do it now, but maybe in the future I'll go to it. But I was kind of thinking about going to one. But like I'd already reported on these classes last year. So I bring this up because this is proof positive that stuff that I started reporting on an effing year ago that you all would have known about had you been watching Socialism Saturday since its inception. The most connected far right, I wouldn't say far, the most connected conservative influencers are just now coming around to what we already found on Socialism Saturday a year ago. And this is not to shit talk Laura Loomer. I actually think Laura Loomer is ahead of where most people on the right are. So I'm actually, in this specific case, I'm not actually trying to shit talk Laura Loomer. I'm just pointing out that we are light years ahead of where other groups are on this particular topic. And that's because we sit our butts down and we watch what these people are talking about and what they're actually doing every single week. So congratulations for everyone who's been here from the beginning. I told you we were ahead of them. And sometimes it's nice to get that evidence. All right, guys, a couple more orders of business for today. Of course, I want everyone to make sure you are signed up for my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. I will have an article coming out later today explaining why the far left hates meritocracy and individualism. Again, if you are a regular viewer of Socialism Saturday, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that they do, but this is part of my Woke 101 series that I do on the Substack. You can find that right up in the menu bar right up here. And the Woke 101 series is where I break down what the woke left is doing in plain English so that you can share it with your friends, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to explain to you why, if I'm not coughing, sorry about that. I will, oh my God. What just happened? I will explain to you why the far left hates individualism and meritocracy in plain English in something that you can share out. That's going to be coming up later today. Of course, tomorrow we're going to have our Unwoke Roundup newsletter coming out, and that is where you get your supporter perks for the week. If you do want to support the work I'm doing and get access to all of our supporter perks, to include 2 Zoom calls every single week, to include access to my supporter Discord, where tomorrow night at 8 p.m. we will be watching The Princess Bride in honor of Sin. Also, the same Sin that wrote this here communist poem. We are watching tomorrow night in my supporter Discord, The Princess Bride, because Sin picked it as her birthday movie selection. We are doing that at 8 p.m. The best way to get access to the supporter Discord is by becoming a paying member on my Substack, which is $8 a month, $80 a year. And you're going to get access to that tomorrow in the weekly Unwoke Roundup email. You can also become a member of this here YouTube channel. You can become a paying supporter of my locals or my Patreon, whatever works best for you, whatever is most comfortable. And then join us in the supporter Discord tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And we're going to watch The Princess Bride. And it's going to be great. Also, I want to let everyone know that I do, of course, have the Trump mugshot design up on Unwoke Art. And we're looking at the mug version because, of course, we're putting the mugshot on the mug. And I didn't want to just slap Trump's mugshot on there like so many other people are doing and call it a day. I wanted to make it a little fancy, and I wanted to make a little statement. And so I put the resist fascism hashtag under it because who's the real fascist? Is Donald Trump the fascist? Or are the people that are doing the thing that resulted in this mugshot, are they the fascist? Who's really to say? So this is my version of the Trump mugshot merch that everyone's coming out with. I hope you guys like it. I did want to do Trump right with doing the gold background as well with some gold glitter and all that stuff. But you can get it in a t-shirt, you can get it on a hoodie, you can get it in a mug, and you can even get it in a tumbler with a straw if you feel so inclined. That is available on my Unwoke Art website right now. You can also, of course, get the Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt for a limited time only. There are also other t-shirts you can get. Of course, our Be Bourgeois t-shirt. This is one of the best-selling t-shirts on my in my merch store right now. Of course, this is a direct middle finger to so many of the socialists that we're going to be watching tonight. It says Be Bourgeois on it with the classic Fox. No, the picture of the mug is only on one side because it just didn't work with two on it, but I did try it. It looks better with one, just trust me. Anyway, you can also get the Be Bourgeois t-shirt on the website, or you can get the original Socialism Saturday Join the Cult t-shirt, all sorts of other great merch. Of course, all merch purchases do go to support the work I'm doing, and I really appreciate it. Last thing, we do have Socialism Bingo. Let me get the Socialism Bingo card in the chat on YouTube. Here you go, Socialism Bingo on Rumble. Shout out to Big Z Video Games on Rumble, who says, I'm reading a book called Marx for Beginners, and man, does this guy love him some Karl Marx. Thanks for streaming to Rumble. You're very welcome. I'm happy to be on Rumble, also on Odyssey, also on Rockfin, also on Getter, also on Twitter, also on Facebook. I think that's it. But you can get your Socialism Bingo card. Go ahead and click Generate Card, and then you've got your free square in the middle. And then we go for lines or we go for corners. If you get bingo, just shout out bingo in the chat. You don't win anything, but it just keeps us engaged, make sure we're paying attention, keeps us listening to what's going on, and we will give you a hearty round of applause. And then once you get the line, we're going for blackout bingo after that. All right, do I have anything else for today? I don't think we do. So guys, I'm going to ask everyone to mount that like button for me. If you don't want to mount the like button, you can I suppose grab the like button. You can caress the like button. You can high five the like button. You can shake hands with the like button, etc., etc., etc. Do whatever you want to the like button. It's none of my business what you do. Just make sure you do something to it. Just don't smash it. We're not hooligans on this channel. We don't smash things. We can be more debonair than that, more bourgeois than that. So let us know what you're doing to the like button in the chat, and we will get started with today's episode of Socialism Saturday. Let's see. All right, just checking the chat. Sorry, guys. We are watching a panel from the Democratic Socialists of America 2023 convention called The Future of the DSA. Let's get this party started.
In case you don't know what you're here for, this is the Future of DSA plenary. I'll read the description. The organization is at a critical moment for deciding how we move forward to build a working class party. Looking at the challenges we've had and the present political stakes, what kind of socialist organization does the current political moment call for, and how do we build that organization? The plenary session draws on the experience of members from across the org as they share visions for building.
Cheers, everyone. If you're drinking something fun, put it in the chat.
So yeah, I'm gonna sit.
I'm drinking Sam Adams Oktoberfest,
panelists a chance to introduce
the
themselves,
best
and
of
we'll
all
get into it.
mass-produced beer in the world.
Hello again. Here with me, I have some folks who have been, pretty deeply involved in DSA over the years. People who have been on the NPC, who have, seen all of it. We have Christian Hernandez, my fellow NPC member on the current NPC. Sean Estelle, fellow NPC member on the former NPC. Christine Ridio, how you doing? From the 2017.
Guys, let me know how my mic sounds, my volume sounds in relation to them. Thank you.
Been around the organization much longer than that. And Jake Colosa. What's up, Jake?
Oh, hang on. I have to acknowledge LK here. Carlin, I bought Sam Adams Oktoberfest, cider donut cider, and pumpkin ale. LK, you're all set, girl. Those are the staples of fall. That's basically all I drink in the fall. That's not all I drink. I try to try all the pumpkin beers, but like really, 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 like I almost brought the cider donut cider up, and then I was like, no, Oktoberfest is easier to get than the cider donut beer. So not beer, it's just cider. But anyway, you are all set. Oh, Sin, an OJ with lime and rum. That's an inspired choice, Sin. You guys are doing all sorts of nasty things to the like button tonight. Jesus. Everyone's getting inventive with the like button.
Also on the current NPC and outgoing YDSA co-chair. I can give you all a couple minutes to just intro yourselves. So start with Christian.
Hello. I will keep it brief because I feel like I've been on a mic this entire weekend. I am Christian. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based in North Texas. I've been a member of DSA since September of 2016. Joined shortly after being a national delegate for Bernie, attending the shit show that was the DNC in Philly, and realizing there had to be another way. But most importantly, I joined DSA because I was asked to join DSA by a comrade who had me sign a physical form and send in a check, which feels really old school, but definitely was the way that our local membership was able to grow. I have been a chapter co-chair for 2 years in 2016 through 2018, and then was asked to run for the NPC and did that for the last 2 terms. And I'm really, really looking forward to not being on the NPC and getting back to business.
Sue Ellen says, Carlin, I brought your Trump tour t-shirt with the indictments. I got a ladies large. There's no way that's a large. What can I do? Did you buy the unisex one or did you buy the women's cut one? Because there is measurement information on the merch. I will say that the unisex one, which is the one I recommend you guys buy, it does, like, the large is a true large. So if it may have been the women's cut one, so I'm not really sure. If you want to like get in touch with me about it, maybe we can work something out. But like, let me know, just send me an email and maybe we can figure that out. But I will say that the unisex one, okay, that's the problem. You bought the women's cut one. Guys, I'm going to be really blunt. This is why I don't offer women's cut t-shirts, because women's cut t-shirts are always smaller than people think they are. So I'm sorry. But the size information was on the website. You can send me an email. Maybe we can try to work something out. But this is why I don't offer them in the first place, and you guys are giving me reason to not offer them again. Anyway, we'll work that out, Sue Ellen, okay?
Because Texas is a bit of a shit show, and I'd like to go back to doing local work. So thank you.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Justin. Hi, y'all. My name is Sean Estelle. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a resident here in Chicago. Some say the greatest city in the world.
Sue Ellen, did you look at the sizing information before you purchased the t-shirt? This is why I don't offer women's cut t-shirts on my website. It's always a shit show every time.
And I joined DSA on J20 in 2017. I had been a part of the left since 2011. I was part of the climate movement, an NGO staffer. And I saw mass arrests happening.
Oh, look, Mary Ellen coming in with the fix. I appreciate that. Or Mary Ann, sorry, Mary Ann. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Climate change was looming ever larger. And I decided to join a mass organization and commit to making it my political home and making sure that we were stepping up to join the fight as Donald Trump took power. And
I feel like we've seen this guy before. I feel like we've seen this guy on a different Socialism Saturday. Does anyone remember him? Am I making that up?
And as we needed to have all hands on deck to build eco-socialism. So I spent 2 years on the NPC from 2019 to 2021 and just wrapped up a term as the campaigns coordinator of Chicago DSA. And do not have a form.
Okay, again, guys, if you're going to order women's cut shirts off my website, I'm going to encourage you to look at the sizing information before you do it. I'm sorry, but like, this is what, okay, I am never going to offer women's cut again. Thank you, Sue Ellen. I appreciate the feedback. This is the last time.
Formal organizing role for the first time in nearly 12 years.
Hi, I'm Chris Radil. I've been a member of DSA for 40 years, since it was formed. I should say my pronouns are she, her. I actually
I
joined
wouldn't have
DSA
guessed
by
that if
way
I'm
of New
honest about
American
it, but
Movement, by way of the Chicago Women's Liberation Union, which was where I was first introduced to the idea of socialist feminism back in 1969. And in the Women's Union and later NAM, I learned a lot of the lessons that have helped me over the years.
thank you,
Be
Sue Ellen.
part
I
of
appreciate it.
DSA, and I actually been thinking about a lot of the things that were said yesterday, and I'm very impressed with all of the ideas that people had.
Sue Ellen, I'm not annoyed at you. I'm annoyed at the constant hassle that is selling women's cut merchandise. This is again why I don't do it, because every single time I have sold women's cut merchandise, there's always problems with the sizing. Always. It doesn't matter. Like, everyone's always fucking upset. Someone likes it, someone doesn't like it. It's just like, it's annoying, it's a pain in the ass. Unisex t-shirts from here on forward, and everyone can just deal with that.
And the way in which organizing is playing such an important part, because that's one of the key things I remember learning back in the day. I also don't want to forget to say I grew up in Milwaukee, so shout out to Milwaukee. I spent 15 years here in Chicago. You gotta love Chicago.
Chicago
Go
is
out and get
extremely
those,
socialist.
Chicago,
Extremely
beefs
socialist.
and sausages, and go to the Cubs game, you know. And I'm now in Metro DC DSA, top chapter, doing some great organizing, and I'm very happy to be part of that. And I'm the vice chair, I guess, of the DSA Fund board, which is the C3 sister of DSA.
Good morning, comrades. My name is Jake Colosa. I use he, they
Comrades!
pronouns. I joined DSA in February 2019 through the YDSA for Bernie campaign. I was a student at NYU, and my chapter was visible on our campus, engaging students in this campaign, and that's what brought me to DSA. And through concerted mentorship by leaders in that chapter and plugging into New York City DSA and the campaigns they were running, that's how I came to realize the socialist politics that subconsciously I had all along. Since joining DSA, I've served on New York City DSA steering committee as the YDSA representative from April 2020 to September 2021. And for the past 2 years, I've served on YDSA's national coordinating committee, including as co-chair for the past year. After stepping down, now that my term's done, I will be starting my career as a public school teacher in New York City in the fall.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Exactly what we need, socialist teaching in the public schools.
All right, and those are our panelists. So let's get into some questions. So what we'll do with our time is we'll hear from the panelists, I guess for about 45 minutes, around there, and then we'll open up for Q&A. And when we do Q&A, I think Anna's going to help us out with the mic. So cool. All right, let's get into it. So the first question: to succeed, DSA needs consistent, regular membership. What's the best way to move that goal forward? I will leave it to you to decide who talks.
I mean, I'm happy to. Well, I think it's going to be a really boring answer, but we have to do consistent active recruitment and active retention. We, on the Growth and Development Committee, are constantly trying to support chapters in developing mentorship and membership committees in particular. I think Beth mentioned yesterday, had noticed that a lot of our chapters are having leadership bodies doing this work. And while it should be the job of everybody in the chapter to be recruiting people into the organization, to be giving people meaningful ways to be engaged in the campaigns that our chapters are waging, and making asks, right? as Ashik mentioned in his report, our most inconsistent way of funding the organization is through annual dues. So we want to make sure that we're moving folks into monthly dues, which then chapters are able to get the kickback of due share in a way that's also creating stability for the chapter. So it's really just the bread and butter work of asking people to join DSA, giving people a reason to stay in DSA, and making sure that's done in a methodical and structural way in the chapter.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that, I completely agree. We have to look at methodical and structural work, and then also take advantage of political conditions. We have to be opportunistic in a good way. Christian talked about the recruitment work of the Growth and Development Committee, and one of the things that we did in 2020 with the presidential electoral cycle, with a potential coup and everything else that was happening, was engaging in a recruitment drive that was, I think, as everybody was dealing with the new organizing conditions that we were in because of the pandemic, trying to create a plan and sticking to that plan, and then being able to bring in tens of thousands of people in the course of a few weeks, and then taking that base of people and giving them the skills. And so that's the other thing too, is that consistent and regular membership comes from the leaders in the organization using every single meeting, every single one-on-one as an opportunity to be able to give somebody new skills, to bring them up a leadership ladder, the bread and butter work of organizing, and that never stops.
Well, I have only a few things to add to what Christian and Sean have said, because I agree with them. But one of the things that I do want to add is that we have a good, strong focus on organizing that I think is important to bringing people in. But we need to tie that to this.
I want everyone to keep something in mind as we're making our way through this presentation, because of course, like, we can make fun of the ums and the ahs and like what they're saying and all this stuff, but I just want to keep everyone to keep something in mind. These people are winning, and they're not winning by a little bit. They're winning by a lot. And so I have no problem with making fun of the ums and the ahs and the ill preparedness, because inevitably when these people are at a conference, they're usually ums and ahs and ill preparedness. And yet still, these people are winning. These people are driving the talking points of the Democratic Party. And that should terrify everyone, because these people are insane and are barely functional human beings for the most part. And yet they're winning because they show up. They show up, they organize, they express their ideas, they teach people, they publish books, they run conferences, they are constantly doing something. And even though they suck at what they're doing, they're still winning, because what they're doing is so far superior to anything that the right is doing. It's disgusting. And that should really terrify everyone. Naruto, thank you for the super chat. F's in the chat for Bob Barker. He almost made it to 100. At least he didn't go. At least Bob Barker didn't go over $1. And in some respects, you have to admit that Bob Barker hitting that 99. I mean, come on, there is some beauty to that, isn't there? He didn't go over $1. Good for him.
Concept of outreach. And there's a paper that was written many years ago about outreach where it says, this was for the women's organization, outreach means getting to know a lot of people. It means bringing women's consciousness and politics into the everyday lives of people. And we could substitute bringing, a socialist consciousness into the everyday lives of people.
A socialist consciousness into the everyday lives of people. Oh, good. What could go wrong?
Rather than simply inviting them to a meeting at your house or at your office. And so we need to be.
Yes, some
our
might
lives
say
of people. We need to be
a
friends
critical
with people
consciousness.
so that they
Indeed,
have
VT Num.
both a political and social tie to the organization.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I think there's no path to growing DSA that doesn't involve running highly visible campaigns around issues that are widely and deeply felt. For example, at NYU YDSA this year, we ran a campaign to win abortion without cost, question, or delay on campus. And now tens of thousands of students at NYU have access to free abortion through the Student Health Center.
Oh, really? Tens of thousands of students have access to free. Let me just clip that real quick. If I wait, I'm gonna forget this. Let me just clip that real quick. Because of the Democratic Socialists of America, tens of thousands of students have access to free abortion at NYU. And I'm pro-choice and I'm saying that.
Both a political and social tie to the organization.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I think there's no path to growing DSA that doesn't involve running highly visible campaigns around issues that are widely and deeply felt. For example, at NYU YDSA this year, we ran a campaign to win abortion without cost, question, or delay on campus. And now tens of thousands of students at NYU have access to free abortion through the Student Health Center. And many of the members of our recently elected organizing committee are students whose doors we knocked in the fall. So we are taking students, politicizing them on issues, and bringing them into leadership. I think this is something that YDSA has done pretty well over the past few years as well.
Hang on, I'm gonna clip it there. Thank you guys for allowing me to create that clip. I appreciate it. This is why we listen to them, because when we listen to them, they tell us exactly and precisely what they're doing.
We've been able to grow over 100 or 150% over the past 3 years, despite members graduating out each year. And this growth is not happening at small liberal arts schools in the Northeast. Our largest YDSA chapters are at public universities in the South.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
And lastly, I also think it's important that we invest in
So for everyone who thinks that this is just an issue in the blue cities, he just said that the largest young Democratic Socialists of America chapters in the country are at public universities in the South. For all the conservatives that are like, we don't have to deal with this because we live in the South, we live in a red state. You want to know why, conservatives? Because they went and got your kids. They got your kids. They got your kids in school. They got your kids in the public schools that you guys sent them to because you didn't listen when people told you to get your kids out of public schools. And they got them in high school. They got them in middle school. They got them in elementary school. And then once they go to college, they join the Young Democratic Socialists of America, where the largest chapters exist in public universities in the South. So conservatives, please stop saying I'm in a red state, I don't have to deal with this, because it's coming. It's working its way through the schools exactly like they designed it and they planned it when you guys were ignoring what was going on because you were reading about fucking drag queens or something. Don't say no one warned you.
mentorship and consciously developing members into leaders, especially YDSA members into DSA members, and further connecting them to the organization through that.
Hang on, Rottweiler. Marxists began coming out from Tennessee, in fact, so it doesn't matter if the state is red, the universities aren't. What else is in Tennessee? Does someone want to remind me what else is in Tennessee? Oh, the Daily Wire.
With a little bit of an order for our questions, but I'm going to scramble that order because I think it makes sense. Sorry, we have a bit of an order for questions, but I'm going to scramble that order because I think it makes sense given what we just talked about. So I'm going to move to what we have listed fourth for y'all. Because I think it's related. How do we develop leaders capable of bringing DSA forward in a sustainable way? How do we make this part of our everyday work? I think it's, pretty relevant question if we're talking about developing membership, but how do we kind of, keep everybody here and also create more leaders? Whoever wants to jump in. Yeah.
Well, I'll take a stab at this. I think as we develop as leaders, you can recognize in other people their leadership capabilities, and that we have to look out for that. And then we have to make sure that they have support as they develop into leaders, that it's not something that particularly women, I think, are taught growing up. And so, and I would say we need to develop women leaders in this organization. It's been fairly male dominated over the years. And that takes some work. One other thing that I think is important is that we have to not see ourselves as just sort of a part of what's going on, but as actual actors, that we're the people who are going to make a difference, and that the people that we're working with are also the people who are actors in our own lives and in our society.
Yeah, I think to build on what Chris is saying, and also what
Marianne, you can delete your own comments.
Too,
I didn't
come
see it
from
go
the
through.
student organizing world before DSA, and this year in Chicago during the 2023 electoral cycle, it was really interesting. There were multiple times where I ran into people who were volunteers on campaigns for DSA endorsed electeds, and also other progressives that were running, that were people that I was mentoring and developing like a decade ago, who had moved to Chicago, who had stayed a part of the movement, and having conversations with them and seeing the path that they have taken. And so in terms of leadership development, and going back to what I said previously, every meeting is an organizing opportunity, and every single conversation is an opportunity to bring somebody closer, to develop that lifelong relationship with people. And also not only with students and young people, especially with students and young people, for those who've been in it for a long time, but also in general too. One of the most important things, I think, is understanding that there's not a script. We're talking about nuts and bolts organizing here. Organizing is not rocket science. There is a basic cycle. And at the same time, there is no script to be able to do this. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to fuck up. But our responsibility when we are developing leaders, when we're in deep relationship with people, is to understand that we are in this for the long haul together, and we're developing each other as leaders together, no matter what, and we're comrades. So,
comrades. Everyone drink when they say comrades.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna quote something that Chris actually told me in a conversation we had maybe a year or two ago. I was talking to former NPC members, just trying to get some insight on what it had been like.
Can we just take a moment to really appreciate that the governing body for the Democratic Socialists of America, it's called the National Political Committee, but the initials of it are NPC, which could also be non-playing character. And it's just really ironic. It's like these beautiful coincidences that just come up, that the National Governing Board for the Democratic Socialists of America, the initials of it are NPC.
Like to be on the NPC. And Chris was just like, well, sometimes all the bullshit doesn't really matter because these are people you're going to be fighting with for the next 40 years anyway. Which, just gives you a lot of perspective in that sometimes you can have just really intense, either political or interpersonal situations with folks. But at the end of the day, I think approaching things with grace,
Exactly,
approaching things
Vince.
through
Exactly.
a lens of forgiveness in the organization as much as possible can help sort of mitigate some of those tense situations and really remind folks why we're here, what's at stake, and the type of world that we're trying to build is not just going to be built for us. And I think it's in everybody's interest to have an organization that's militant, an organization that's resilient, and particularly an organization that can win. And I think in this moment, things are only going to get tougher. We need to have an organization that can withstand an increasingly hostile political environment. And that also means looking out for our members, making sure that we can do this work as safely as possible while taking care of each other and not really putting ourselves in situations that make it more difficult to do that work, which includes Twitter. Just putting that out there. But really, we can do a lot of.
You mean the Democratic Socialists of America think that Twitter is making it harder for them to organize? Oh, the horror. The horror. I'm kind of like loving Twitter lately. I know that like some people are upset about Elon Musk and the CEO that he's installed at Twitter, and I get it, I really do. But I have to say that like Elon Musk must be doing something right because both the left and the right are pissed off at him. And so I'm kind of like, okay, Elon, I don't necessarily agree with all of your decisions, but if you're pissing off both the left and the right at the same time, then something is happening and we should all just relax. Bess says, greetings, fearless leader and comrades. My friend who was going with me to DeSantis had to put her dog down unexpectedly. I'm really sorry. So I kept her company today. She was so sad. It seems like a better use of my time. Well, yeah, Beth, I do think it was definitely better for you to spend time with your friend. That is like the toughest thing in the world, to put down an animal. And so, yeah, I think you did the right thing. Listen, you're in Iowa, Beth. DeSantis is going to be back. You're going to have plenty of time to see him, and it's probably not going to be that eventful when you do. So I think you definitely made the best choice there. Grant says, no wonder these far lefties are losing. Oh, Grant. Oh, you're new here. They're not losing, buddy. They're winning. They're kicking your ass. They're kicking your ass bad. You just don't know it because your influencers lie to you.
Things individually, but I think also just organizationally need to be able to look at how we're creating support systems for leaders. I think particularly leaders, women, leaders of color, and also how we're building sort of pipelines of engagement, from areas like YDSA, but also just the different terrains that we're waging campaigns in. Whether that's unionizing different workplaces or through electoral campaigns.
Yeah, I guess just to add on, I think
Marianne, I'm gonna be honest. I don't actually see your comment, so I mean, I've looked for it a couple times. I don't see it, so I don't know. I will delete it if I see it. Okay.
leaders in the organization, we need to be really intentional about how we're developing leaders and see that as one of our main roles, in addition to steering our chapter or committee or whatever body we're on. I'm really proud and humbled to say that 2 members of my YDSA chapter, 2 queer women.
Oh, Grant, if they were winning, they would be in all government, local, state. Grant, they are. They are. Bro, oh my God, fucking conservatives, I swear to God. Grant, some of the most high-profile members of Congress are Democratic Socialists. And the Democratic Socialists of America, more than any other third party in this country, have been successful at getting people elected at the state and local level. So yes, they are in all levels of government. And you putting your chat in caps, bro, doesn't actually change that. It just emphasizes that you don't know what's going on, probably because you are listening to people who are not telling you the truth and who are overtly lying to you, or who don't know what's going on themselves. But the fact of the matter is that the Democratic Socialists of America are in the federal government. They are in your state governments. They're in your local governments. And not only that, but as Rottweiler correctly points out, they are also entrenched in academia. They own the schools, they own higher education, they also own K through 12 education, which means they own your kids. These people are winning. It's not even close. And anyone who thinks otherwise either has not spent any time watching these people at all with us, or they are listening to really ignorant people who are lying to them, which would be basically all of conservative influencers.
That I mentored for the past 3 years were just elected to YDSA's National Coordinating Committee. And it was through, years of working with these members and supporting them as they stepped up for more work that they felt confident and had the experience and skills to step up to that position. I also did want to add on a little bit to share some more information about what YDSA's mentorship program looks like. So right now we have 40 DSA members who are working with individual YDSA chapters across the country to support chapter leaders, help start new YDSA chapters, and create resources to support the work of YDSA mentors. I think this is really crucial work because not only are we developing leaders through this program, but we are connecting YDSA chapters to their DSA chapter and helping YDSA members identify as DSA members. I'd really encourage
So they
folks
have a
to
recruiting
go
pipeline.
to the YDSA table when you get a chance to learn more about this program. And especially
So what he's describing right now is the recruiting pipeline for the Democratic Socialists of America. Essentially, they go onto college campuses, they organize on college campuses, they get people into the young Democratic Socialists of America, and then when they're leaving college, they get them involved with their local Democratic Socialists of America chapter. The reason I bring this up is because what he just described is literally the job of Turning Point USA to do on the Republican side. And in the midterms, Republicans completely failed in record numbers to turn out any youth vote at all. What he just described is literally the only reason that Turning Point America, or Turning Point USA, was supposed to exist. It is what people are donating $40 million to Turning Point USA to do. They were supposed to go onto college campuses, organize the youth vote, and then they could, quite literally, Turning Point USA could just follow the game plan of the Democratic Socialists of America, but they aren't doing it. So where's the money going? Where's the money going? Where is the $40 million a year that Turning Point USA gets? Why are the Democratic Socialists of America able to do this? Probably with a lot less money than Turning Point USA. Why are they more able to do this? Grant, I'm sorry, bro. I know you're new here, but you need to do a lot less talking and a lot more listening because you don't know what you're talking about. These people do not care about Turning Point USA at all because Turning Point USA is so ineffective they don't have to spend any time thinking about it. The only time they spend any time thinking about Turning Point USA at all is when they're insulting you. That's it. Beyond that, Turning Point USA is a non-factor in anything. You guys give it $40 million a year to fail. These people aren't even worried about it. These people don't have half of the money that Turning Point USA does. And yet they're winning and you're losing, and you're reeing on freaking YouTube about it, acting like you're winning, which is why you will continue to lose. Gemini Rider, thank you for the super chat. What do you think it will take to break the Marxist stranglehold on academia? Nothing. Nothing is going to break the Marxist stranglehold on academia. Nothing. It's not possible. It got too powerful. Colleges are gone. Maybe one or two are okay. You can rescue maybe onesies and twosies. But higher education, gone. K through 12 education, not going to be fixed in our lifetime. So nothing. And I really hate to say that, but that is the truth that people need to start saying. We cannot fix what these people have done to education because no one actually cares enough to do anything about it. No one. You look at Chris Rufo, most effective conservative activist in the country, right? Chris Rufo's on the board of one college. Maybe they'll be able to turn around one college. There are 4,000 colleges in the country. And maybe you're going to get one. And it's a small little liberal arts college in Florida. Nothing wrong with that. I really do hope Rufo is successful in that. I really, really do. I know he's committed to it. I know he's working on it. I know it's very important to him. I know that he's doing all the right things. They're literally doing all the right things. So this isn't shit talking him at all because he's doing the right thing. That's one college. There are 4,000 colleges in the country. Ain't nothing gonna fix it.
If you're someone who's interested in getting involved in that work, I think it's really crucial to growing our organization in the long term.
I'll take off my facilitator hat and jump in real quick to add a little something, and which is that in my experience with developing leaders, I mean, it starts with like having a kind of openness with the people that you're around in an organization. So I'll one little anecdote I'll share is like, you know,
Did Vivek say he would abolish the Department of Ed? Yes, he did. Vivek said he would abolish the Department of Ed. The problem is that Vivek is not going to be president. And I say this saying that he is the only person I will vote for. Vivek Ramaswamy is the only person running for president that I actually believe in. Sadly, the conservative right will not vote for him. I think a lot of people will, but not remotely enough to get him elected. Vivek is not getting the nomination, and he knows that. He's running to help Trump. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't support him. We should support him because he's the only serious candidate in the race. But the Department of Ed is not getting abolished. I really hope everyone understands this. Donald Trump, if he gets elected president, which he won't, he will absolutely lose. But in the fantasy land where he does, Donald Trump is not going to abolish the Department of Education.
I was one of the liaisons to National Political Education Committee and met some folks through that. And you know, there was one member who you know wanted to get to know a little bit more. Did a one-on-one, talked about our kind of experience, what brought us to DSA, what they
also with Vivek. Like, listen, Republicans are getting conspiratorial about him. I'm getting all these messages from like these conservative accounts of like, here's all the problems with Vivek Ramaswamy, and did you know he did this, and did you know he did that? And everything these accounts are spreading is total bullshit. Like, Vivek has already debunked it on multiple occasions. But there are all these guys, I swear, like, I have them all in my messages on Instagram. I have them all in my message. Why are you supporting Vivek? He's bought off. He's this, he's that, he's this other thing. So, like, conservative voters are getting really conspiratorial about him already. And it's like, because Vivek is so effing good, the smartest thing the conservatives could ever do would be to vote for him. But they won't. They won't do it because they all conservatives know how to do is snatch defeat from the jaws of victory every single time. It's maddening. It really is. Rottweiler, Turning Point USA is inconsequential because Marxists are already being effective, breeding activists in school who go straight into politics. Losing? Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly, Rottweiler, the voice of reason, as always. It is honestly impressive how bad they are at this. It is honestly and truly impressive, Reagan, how bad they are at this.
They were interested in. And I thought, kind of filed away in the back of my mind. Interesting dude, cool. Months later, I'm on another committee, and we're looking to staff up that committee with more folks. And I'm thinking about who has a kind of like skill set that might work with.
And this is the argument conservatives are making. He talks like Obama. He looks like Obama. Obama won the presidency in a landslide. Conservatives are pissed off because Vivek Ramaswamy talks like Obama and looks like Obama and made an Obama reference in the debate. Barack Obama won the election in a landslide over John McCain. It wasn't even close. So you guys are telling me that you're pissed off that Vivek is modeling someone who won the presidency in a landslide? You're telling me that's a bad plan to model someone who won the presidency in a landslide where it wasn't even effing close? Sounds to me like Vivek had a pretty strong strategy. And because conservatives are so determined to lose, they will make any excuse to not support the only GOP candidate who has any shot of winning at all. Dawn, thank you for the super chat. I'm not trying to totally sidetrack and maybe I just don't listen, but why do you say Trump won't or can't win? Trump ain't going to win. They're not going to let him. There is no way. Do you guys know that the conservative right has fixed exactly zero of the election issues that caused the problems in 2020, right? You guys know that the conservative right is doing exactly zero in terms of ballot harvesting, right? The entire strategy of the conservative right is to rely on Scott Pressler to literally do everything by himself. So they have fixed none of the election issues. They have lost every battle they've tried to fight in every single swing state that Trump lost in 2020. They fixed none of the issues that have resulted in him losing. And their big plan is that Scott Pressler is going to fix everything. Now, Scott Pressler is amazing, and the conservative right should be quite frankly, a lot more grateful for him than they are. But Scott Pressler is one person who quite literally worked himself into the hospital during the 2022 midterms because he is the only one that conservatives have one activist, not one activist organization. They have one single activist. And that activist has no support, no help, and worked himself so hard he ended up in the hospital during the midterms. So do I think that Trump has any hope in hell of winning? No. No. Trump is absolutely not going to win because nothing has changed in any of the swing states that Trump lost in 2020, and he's going to lose every single one of those swing states again.
With this, or that they could grow into And I reached out to them and I was like, hey, you should join this committee. You should join the Growth and Development Committee. They joined. And from what I hear from folks, I was on the committee, but then I went off when I had my daughter in the winter. But from what I hear, this person's been a really big contributor in the committee, and now this person's running for NPC. So it's like, you know, the ways that you can kind of help people along on their journey in developing as leaders starts with having an organizing conversation, having a one-on-one. So these kinds of basic things are really important, I think, developing leaders in the organization, just maintaining the relationships that we have as organizers. I'm going to move on to another question, which is about, Christian touched on some of the kind of tensions that might develop organizationally. So I want to touch on this question about, as an organization, how do we move to build success across various ideological positions in the organization? Now, those ideological positions don't necessarily need to foment tension, but they often do. And sometimes that turns personal and not political. And sometimes it's all messed up and blended together. But I'm wondering what folks think about how we navigate being in a Big Tent organization with various ideological poles.
Yeah, I'll start real quick. What I wanted to share was a little bit of context. As I said, I spent most of my time on the NPC working on turning a priority resolution for the Green New Deal into a campaign with a real strategy. And that priority campaign came from a set of principles that we built as a national eco-socialist working group. I was not at the 2017 convention in Chicago, but as I was getting involved in DSA, I heard from folks that climate change had been not prioritized as one of the top 3 issues because there was not a really coordinated and like central cross-ideological organizing that was happening. So myself and other folks from the National Eco-Socialist Working Group, when the Green New Deal exploded onto the political scene in 2018, we developed a set of eco-socialist principles for a Green New Deal. And then we spent time going to the leadership of every chapter that was active at the time, the eco-socialist working groups, and getting something like 60, 70 chapters to sign on to it, getting every single active ideological caucus in the organization at that time to sign on to it, and then taking those principles and turning them into a resolution and getting Democratic buy-in all along the way. When COVID hit, we brought together reps from 80 chapters for a 3-day meeting to develop demands and then create a 5-year strategy. That 5-year strategy is what is still informing the Green New Deal Campaign Commission today. So every step along the way, getting that Democratic buy-in, doing the organizing work, and making sure to talk to people and integrate across the different priorities that people might have. And that's the blueprint. So,
Well, I have 2 things to say. One, they're rather disparate things. One is, in terms of ideology, I think I'm right. I think I know what we need to do. And I bet you everybody in this room thinks that too. But I'm not a true believer. I don't expect at some point for the rapture of the left to come and Marx will float down from the sky.
Wow,
so
that
I
was
have
really
to,
on the nose, old
believe
socialist
that
lady.
even though I'm
That
pretty
was
sure
really
I'm
on the
right,
nose.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and so could anybody in this room. And right, we need to bear that in mind. That over the years, I've had people who I have completely disagreed with and thought were obnoxious, and then.
Are you serious, bro? Are you serious? You're coming in here, Amy, using a picture of Ronna McDaniel, who has spent tens of thousands of dollars of donor money to the RNC, getting plastic surgery and Botox, and you want to focus on why people on the left are so unattractive when the leader of your party has quite literally spent tens of thousands of dollars of donor money getting plastic surgery? Oh, well, you look scarily like Ronna McDaniel, and that must be really sad for you then, Amy. Like, you have the brain power of that, too. That's literally what you want to focus on. This Amy right here, who is claiming this is her picture. I don't actually believe this is her picture, but we'll go with that for a moment. Amy right here thinks that the most important thing that we can focus on is why the people who are kicking her ass up and down the political playing field, why they're so unattractive. Amy doesn't want to focus on why are these people winning. Amy doesn't want to focus on how can we be better. Amy wants to focus on why these people are just so ugly, because they're so ugly. And oh my God, can you believe they're so ugly? And some of them are fat. Oh my, can you believe that? Can you believe that they're just so fat? Like, really, guys, this is why conservatives lose. No, Grant, I'm not a socialist. I'm someone that's way smarter than both conservatives and socialists put together.
You know, 5 years later, we're on the same side, we're good buddies, you know, stuff like that. Second thing that I think Sean really hit on is that if we're organizing, then our ideas about ideology should be related to organizing, and they'll be much more grounded in the real world around us, rather than saying, if I read, you know, Joe Schmo, that's going to tell me the truth. So those my two disparate thoughts.
It's always fun, the people we get in here for Socialism
Yeah, I
Saturday.
think it's really important that we don't take our internal democracy for granted in DSA. Having a healthy democracy means that.
All right, guys. Grant in the chat is whining. Like, see, this is funny. It's like conservatives come into my chat and they disrupt it so that I can't actually even focus on the presentation. Grant believes that I'm a socialist because Grant is a conservative moron who can't sit and listen. So I just want to ask people in the chat, am I a socialist? Please let Grant know whether or not you think I'm a socialist. Let's just see how this works out for Grant, because Grant couldn't sit and listen and ask, thoughtful questions. Grant had to, and whine and complain because he wasn't getting the answers that he wanted. Am I a socialist? No. Let's see. No. 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 Fuck no. 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 No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, Grant, I'm not a socialist. I really do hate to disappoint.
We are committed to building that and creating a culture around that. I think what that's looked like in YDSA, kind of similar to what Chris was saying, is our National Coordinating Committee this year has been really committed to facilitating organization-wide discussions when we see major political questions come up in the organizing work that we're doing. So some of the things that has looked like this year is, how do we work with social movement organizations that are not socialist to fight for reproductive justice at the national level? We've talked about how do we orient to the nascent student worker movement and the organizations that are growing out of that. And also, how can we organize under right to work and other anti-worker labor laws? And these conversations have helped diffuse tensions in the organization and allowed us to set clear goals that we can move forward to collectively. I think it's also really important that we view political tendencies as a benefit to the organization.
This is actually correct. Shannon is actually correct. Socialists are so afraid of me that they have literally canceled events because there was a rumor that I might be there. This actually did happen in real life. Shannon, I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Help members clarify their politics and work wherever we can to facilitate cross-tendency discussions and allow them to present their ideas to members.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is just to that point, making sure we're not setting ourselves in our silos. I think that's something that happens a lot in the organization, not just with the various political tendencies, but also with the various issue areas of work that we engage in DSA. I think it can lead to a lot of editorializing, creating narratives that might not actually be the truth. And generally, I feel like once
Hang on, got a super chat from Gemini Rider. How do you stay grounded and not get blackpilled? Bro, I'm totally blackpilled. I think we're fucked. That's the truth. I think we're fucked. I think the socialists are going to win. I think we are on the long, slow descent into communism. I think that we should, one of the reasons that we watch Socialism Saturday is I want to be as prepared for our obvious communist Marxist future as I possibly can be. I want to know what's coming. And like, I genuinely think we're fucked. But I also don't think that we need to be miserable about it. I think that we can have a sense of humor about these things. And I mean, maybe, like, hopefully it doesn't happen in my lifetime. I think the one piece of the one like slight white pill I have is that I'm probably going to be dead by the time that these people actually do take over, and so it probably won't affect me that much. But yeah, I am black-pilled, but I don't, just because I'm black-pilled doesn't mean I have to have a bad attitude, doesn't mean I'm gonna be depressed, it doesn't mean I'm gonna be miserable. There's still a lot of life left to live, and, like, you know, maybe someday other political groups will get their acts together. Like, the conservative right isn't gonna help us. The alt-right is a goddamn nightmare. They're actually worse than the socialists. The libertarians are so fucked it's not even funny. So yeah, I think we're screwed, and I think these people are gonna win. I just don't think there's any reason to be miserable about it. So it is what it is. We have to fight back in our own ways. Like, try to make things bearable while we can. Throw as much sand in these people's gears as we can. But my black pill is strong, man. I'm sorry to say. James Jones says middle guy is wearing the bottom and top shirt. Yes, he is. The middle guy is wearing a shirt that says bottom and top something, we all hate the cops or something. It's something like that. Like, we all hate the cops. Definitely something about the cops. Ziv says, welcome. I'm glad you're chatting in. Longtime lurker, but never actually commented in the chat before. I'm also very black-pilled and I think we're doomed. So what can we do to prepare ourselves for this beyond knowing what's coming? I think knowing what's coming is a really big step. That's why we do this. And, I mean, part of, like, what's so great about Socialism Saturday is we do have a community of people. So, like, we all know what's coming. And I think helping other people to learn what's coming and showing people what's coming, like this is why I make clips of Socialism Saturday. I haven't made as many clips lately as I should, but, like, I make clips of this stuff so you guys can show your friends, you guys can show your families, you guys can help other people understand what's coming. Like, spreading the word and making sure other people see this stuff, I think is really important. This is why I do my Substack, carlin.substack.com, where I break down these ideas. I try to explain them in plain English so that you can pass this information along to your friends so that you can better understand it. Don't underestimate the power of explaining this. Don't underestimate the power of sharing information, because, like, part of the reason that these people are so much further ahead than us is because they took the time to do what was required. If you skip over understanding what's going on, then you're not taking the time to do what's required. These people took the time to understand the lay of the land that they were working in, and then they basically practiced game theory in order to be able to take over as much as they did. So don't underestimate understanding where we are and in sharing that information with other people. And I really think that's the best thing that we can all be doing right now, which is why I spend so much of my time doing it. Let's see. Trendlin, I am on the executive committee of the LP of California because of you. Don't know if I still thank you. Oh, Trendlin. Trendlin is doing the Lord's work in the leadership of the Libertarian Party of California. And you know what, Trendlin, I salute you. I really do. It is I will never run for libertarian leadership of anything. Like, after this last year and in everything that's happened, like, which I'm not going to get into here, but Trendlin, you know what I'm talking about. I won't do it. I mean, maybe sometime way in the future, maybe, but like, being in a leadership position in the Libertarian Party is not for wimps. And so I salute you, Trendlin. I really do. And I appreciate that I had some part, like, Trendlin, you being on the XCOM of the LP of CA is like basically my revenge for you making me watch the Whatever podcast. Let's see. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. Counter revolutions begin small. Start by educating your community members, church fellows, etc. Sow as much distrust as you can instead of waiting for a messianic figure solving it for you. That's right. Again, guys, don't underestimate the value of understanding what's going on and in sharing information. The only way that we wake more people up is with one-on-one conversation with our friends and family. Show them what's happening. I'm giving you guys the resources to do it. If you don't like my resources, go to James Lindsay. If you don't like his resources, go somewhere else. But show people what's happening because they're doing it all right in the open. And we all have to take part in fixing this problem. Thank you, Rottweiler. Appreciate it.
Folks are interacting on a regular basis, that some of those tensions, while there might be still the political disagreements, the tensions themselves seem to sort of melt away. And also in particular, I think like things like our national convention are doing a lot of good work in having folks from various tendencies meeting in person, being able to have these conversations, and also having a fundamental understanding.
Sorry, one more thing I'm going to say on this because Ziv says, been trying to explain this to my friends and family. You have to say the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. When you're explaining what's going on to other people, you can't just say it once and assume that they understand it. You have to say it again and again and again until you're sick and tired of saying it. Why do you guys think I repeat the 4 goals of the woke left every single day of my life for the past year and a half? Every single day. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. You have to say the same thing over and over and over again to get it into their brain so that when they see it, they know they can identify it when it shows up in the real world. And that's the hardest part. Believe me, I don't like repeating the same thing over and over and over again. I'm going a little crazy from having to do so. But it's the only way people learn. And so that's the thing that you have to take for the team, is being the annoying person that keeps saying the same thing over and over again, even when you don't want to, because that's the only way that other people are ever going to learn.
Understanding that we're here for the same reason, and that we all have that shared commitment of wanting to see DSA be successful in the demands that we have before us.
Only thing I'll add to that is, I think it's really true that we have to.
Hang on, got another super chat from Queen Beth. Thank you. I recommend finding your support circle, staying educated on this, and learning skills to barter or having something to trade, just to name a few. That's really great, Beth. I do appreciate those tips. We also there's on the Substack right now, and also on my YouTube channel, I have a clip from my conversation with the Q shaman, Jacob Chansley, and he had some great advice for red pilling your friends and family. And so I would definitely recommend head over to the Substack or look on the YouTube channel for the how to red pill your friends and family video, because he really did have some great advice there as well.
Think about whatever our ideological differences may be. It's highly unlikely that we're winning socialism tomorrow. We're probably going to be doing this together for a very long time. It is not wise to alienate people that you're going to be doing stuff with for a very long time. So lead with your politics, but don't be an asshole, is what I would say. Totally doable, by the way.
Hang on, got another super chat. You guys are being so generous. I really do appreciate it. Zally, thank you. If the US goes communist, the whole world is going to suffer massively. Well, don't I know it, but I'm just one person. I can't fix everything. I'm doing my part. If everyone does their part, maybe we won't go communist, but you know, I'm cross my fingers. I'm trying.
All right. Get into another few questions. This one's pretty present, I think, as we're seeing, you know, the right attack trans youth, attack bodily autonomy, attack all sorts of rights, and do so in a really kind of like, I don't know, the right is kind of feeling itself right now. With the threat of fascism looming, you know, how does DSA show up in these fights?
The right is feeling itself, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, so I think as socialists, we need to really take seriously the threat of fascism and the right, and we need to be steadfast in our opposition to that.
What does fascism mean? How do these people define fascism? We recently learned this. There's a clip on my channel about how a college professor defines fascism with a video of her defining it. How did that college professor define fascism? Pop quiz. When socialists say fascism, what do they mean? They mean capitalism! Capitalism! They mean capitalism! They mean capitalism! Fascism is capitalism! Fascism is capitalism! Capitalism, capitalism, capitalism! Open market capitalism is fascism. Yes, she explicitly said free market capitalism. Capitalism, capitalism. They think fascism is capitalism. Fascism is capitalism. Capitalism, capitalism. Capitalism, private property. Exactly, guys. Well done.
I think a lot of YDSA chapters, especially our chapters in the South, are doing really great work that I want to highlight and think DSA chapters can learn a lot from. So at the University of Florida, our YDSA members organized hundreds of students to occupy the building where former Senator Ben Sasse was speaking to students as he was trying to become president of the university. He ended up having to flee the building through a back door, escorted by police, and has yet to show his face on campus again.
Oh yeah, well done. Well done.
Florida International University YDSA has organized mass rallies to protest Don't Say Gay legislation and attacks on academic freedoms, which is galvanizing students to join the struggle and building a base for future organizing. At the University of Louisville in Kentucky, YDSA members are fighting against anti-trans legislation at the state level and working to defend the right to abortion. And at the University of North Texas, our YDSA chapter won a campaign to improve access to HRT on campus for trans and non-binary students.
Oh,
good. Ultimately, though, I think we need to orient ourselves around power if we truly want to defeat the right, and we need to organize for the long term, especially in strategic industries that can challenge the power of capital. In Florida, I think teachers...
Oh, he just said it, didn't he? He almost got through his spiel without saying it. They need to organize in specific industries, you can see it right on the screen there, to challenge the power of capital. When these people say fascism, what they mean is capitalism.
And teacher unions are at the forefront of the fight against attacks on academic freedom and queer and trans youth. And we need to be uplifting these struggles and thinking about how we as DSA members can support them, join them, and expand them.
Yeah, I want to take a step back and...
I still need to make a t-shirt that says capitalism is fascist. Again, people won't know which side I'm on. It'll be great.
Talk a little bit about how we understand racism and sexism in our society.
Oh yes, please tell us about that.
I think we need to develop an understanding that recognizes that racism and sexism are not ancillary to the main struggle. They're central to it, that they are pillars on which capitalism bases its divisions.
Oh,
So if we look for
racism and sexism, according to socialists, are the pillars of which capitalism sows divisions, as I think what she said. Let's listen again. So when we're talking about racism and sexism, we'll listen again. Let's listen to their definition of it.
talk a little bit about how we understand racism and sexism in our society. And I think we need to develop an understanding that recognizes that racism and sexism are not ancillary to the main struggle. They're central to it, that they are.
What is the main struggle? The main struggle of socialists is against capitalism and private property. So she starts by saying racism and sexism are not ancillary to the main struggle, which is capitalism and private property. And then
ancillary to the main struggle. They're central to it, that they are pillars on which capitalism bases its divisions.
racism and sexism are pillars on which capitalism bases its divisions. Anytime these guys are using any sort of attack, guys, it always goes back to capitalism. Every single time. Anytime these people say whiteness, whiteness means capitalism. Anytime these people say anti-racism, anti-racism means capitalism. Anytime these people are talking about misogyny or patriarchy, that means capitalism. Anytime these people are talking about fascism, that means capitalism. We literally watched a presentation either last week or the week before that was literally called Anti-Racism Means Anti-Capitalism. These people don't hide it. You have to understand that language is their primary weapon. They manipulate language in order to sow divisions. Why do they manipulate language in order to sow divisions? Because the four goals of the woke left are always and forever: gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in the Marxist utopia. If they do not sow divisions, then they cannot achieve their second goal of destabilizing the system. And without destabilizing the system, they can't usher in their Marxist utopia. No, incorrect. When they say whiteness, white supremacy, racism, anti-racism, all of those things mean capitalism. It has nothing to do with your skin color. These people don't care what your skin color is. Guys, there is a white man in the center of this panel. These people do not care what your skin color is. They do not care what your gender is. The only thing they care about is your political ideology. That's it.
So if we look, for example, at trans and LGBTQ issues in Florida, one of the centerpieces of right activity, we also can see that it's not only trans issues. It does include attacks on reproductive freedoms. It includes attacks on critical race theory. Okay. And it also ultimately is including, and particularly explicitly, starting to include attacks on teachers and librarians, where we need to support them. We need to take this into our labor organizing. We need to take it into our electoral organizing and think about what's going on with school boards, not just in Florida, but around the country. And we need to take it into the communities to say, these attacks are coordinated. Don't believe Moms for Liberty or whatever that organization is. And we need to do that outreach. We need to be part of these communities so that we can have talks with the people to move them away from belief in some of this stuff that's going on. Clearly, a lot of people believe it, and we need to fight back against that.
Exactly, John M. Exactly and precisely.
Yeah. So I think if you look at the trans-inclusionary radical feminist movement in the UK, it's actually somewhat different than the one in the US, where there's a big split between pro-abortion feminists and anti-trans militants, which doesn't exist as much here
For
in the
real,
United
this is
States
Autumn's moment
because
right
there's a
here.
multiple
She's just
front
gone.
that is
Isn't it
around bodily
beautiful?
autonomy. But I think that division is a looming threat that could be there, especially if, in the fight to respond to Dobbs, to everything else, to this right-wing explosion, if we see strategy being decided by philanthropy-driven organizations that will take whatever crumbs they can, we could see that happen. And so, that same thing applies when it comes to the international fascist and right-wing wave that is moving from Palestine to India to Hungary, across the world. We see the right wing is cresting in a wave. Again, philanthropy-driven organizations would like nothing more than to make sure that we are focused on domestic issues and only think about domestic issues rather than international working class power. And so it is crucial for us to understand all of these root causes, but then also at the same time to be able to talk to people who have never thought about those symptoms and that material basis, and to be able to thread that to develop leaders. And that's why it's so crucial that our organization, our mass member-funded organization that is not beholden to anybody but us, is the one that is deciding strategy and is building power together.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there had to be sort of a simple answer to that.
Wait, is Autumn watching and just not chatting? Of course she is. Oh, there she is. Autumn, Sin wrote a whole haiku for you.
Building power through organization. I think in Texas in particular, it feels like a lot of us have been ringing the alarm of what's coming for a very long time. I remember being on a plenary at the 2017 convention, specifically talking about the importance of coming together with our undocumented neighbors and community because of all of the xenophobic and racist language that was being perpetuated by the right wing that has only continued to be exacerbated through, the media, but also to Sean's point, we're seeing that on an international scale as well. We're seeing the ways that there are a lot of parallels with, the U.S. and what happened with January 6th, with Brazil as well, and seeing how, folks there were able to combat that rising right-wing authoritarianism in a way that was through creating broad electoral coalitions, broad coalitions of social movements. So I think it's also very particularly important that we are constantly doing this outreach and not really taking any demographics, any groups for granted as people that we have on our side, as people that are unreachable. I think there's largely an idea or a misconception that, these people aren't going to agree with us. They're not going to ever be socialists. And while that might be true for right now, there are likely areas where we have commonality, where we're able to work together on various campaigns where there is that mutual self-interest. And I think that's really important because we need thousands of way more people to be on our side, and we need to be a lot more organized because the right is very organized, and they are very, very serious about coming for everything that we have.
I mean, the only thing that I could add is I think the sense that I get is that the right is like kind of willing to just like go everywhere and talk to whoever. I mean, you know, I think that's assuming you're the right skin shade or whatever gender presentation that they might like. But like, we need to be willing to go everywhere too. We need to be.
See, these people are so afraid of the right when they have no idea that the right sucks.
Struggles in their lives, and helping politicize their everyday lives. So it's a big task. But I think,
exactly,
like,
Kurt. It's projection. It's the ironclad law of woke projection.
Related to that, how are we going to build and engage membership in areas currently underrepresented by DSA? What's it going to look like to develop chapters and branches in those areas? How should we approach geographic growth strategically?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we are intentionally orienting ourselves towards communities where DSA is under-organized or not yet organized, and doing that through organizing around issues that are widely and deeply felt in these communities, and not being afraid of, you know,
this is a good point too,
just
Xander.
because we're not there yet.
Maybe.
If that's the orientation that we take, we're never going to reach these people. And I think from the YDSA perspective, some of the things that I'm really excited about in terms of expanding the organization and growing DSA, at our convention this week, we passed a resolution committing us to focus on starting new chapters at public universities and community colleges, which I think will help further root our organization in the working class. The NPC also recently...
Do you wonder why Joe Biden wants to make community college free for everyone? Anyone? Does anyone wonder why Joe Biden wants to make community college free? Oh, because the socialists are using it to recruit people.
Filled the YDSA organizer vacancy, so we now have expanded capacity to start new chapters at historically Black colleges and universities, and send our staffers to college campuses where we don't yet have chapters, and identify potential leaders to start new chapters. And I also want to highlight the incredible work that several YDSA chapters across the country are doing to start DSA chapters in their community. So they, came to YDSA because they're socialist and they want to join a socialist organization.
You're learning, Grant, but all socialists hate capitalism.
DSA
they all hate capitalism. It's not just the DSA.
Both to support their work, but to address issues that a YDSA chapter can't. One example of this, two comrades from the University of Florida YDSA chapter, Aaron and Alan, have been really instrumental in starting a DSA chapter in Alachua County in Florida, which is now an official organizing committee and hopefully will grow into a full chapter in the near future.
Yeah, I want to mention something that we talked about at the MROC Institute a lot, which was just like, don't be weird. And okay, I mean, folks you can continue to be weird. That's not really the issue. It's more of like how we're approaching people. I think one thing that we found a lot of common stories throughout the MROC cohort was that many of...
It's funny, LK, that you mentioned this. LK says we should start capitalism chapters at college. It's funny that you mentioned this because when I was in school, when I was in like high school and middle school, I took a lot of business courses. I could take business courses at every single grade level, and I went to a really small school, and they taught you how to run businesses. They taught you about entrepreneurship. They taught you about that. What high schools are running entrepreneurship programs? Why did business courses used to be something that were taught in schools? Everything from just like typing to like transcription to basic business, accounting, entrepreneurship. That used to be taught in school. Where is that taught now? Why did they stop teaching business courses in K through 12 schools? Gee, I wonder why. The answer eludes me.
Of us that were people of color in the organization were just like immediately approached for leadership positions, just like as soon as we joined. And for some folks, maybe that was like, it made sense. I know I was recruited from an immigrant rights organization, so I've been doing organizing for a while. So I felt confident in being able to do that. But I also became co-chair like 2 months into being in DSA. Which is a very fast track way of doing it. Sometimes there's not really any other options, but generally you can feel when somebody's sort of approaching you in a way that's like, oh, look, a person of color, I'm going to recruit them to do this one particular thing. So I think instead just being able to approach folks from a sense of like, how can I support this person in developing their skills? How can I make sure that, you know, the culture that we're creating is also welcoming. And most importantly, that people see that we're taking our work seriously so that they can take us seriously. If we want people to invest their time and energy and resources into this organization, then we need to be doing that with the seriousness that demands, because, you know, there's a lot of other things that people could be doing, and it's not necessarily things that are building towards a better world, but it is something that people are, I'll say, like, I feel like this current moment, a lot of folks are sort of reverting inward to themselves, trying to protect what they have, because there's a lot of insecurity that the world is creating. So making sure that we're also giving folks, extending that that opportunity to folks to make sure that they feel comfortable in making those decisions.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting question because I think there are a variety of different things that we can respond to in it. One of the things that immediately came to mind was multiracial organizing. And I was struck yesterday when the Chicago City Council member talked about how DSA supported her, but they didn't come doing door to door or something. And she said, well, because they didn't know the community. And that now Chicago DSA, with, you know, through connections to her, has more in connections with that community. Now I don't know that I've got the whole story right there, but I do think it's something that we should think about, which is, you know, when particularly I think in electoral politics, there's an opportunity to reach out beyond the communities that we live in and to be able to talk to people who are in other races, African American, Hispanic, and so on.
Oh, really, bro? Oh, really? The libertarians are a non-factor. Who the commies are handing it to are conservative losers like you. The commies are kicking the ass of the conservative right up and down and left and right. And then people like you come in here and say, they're kicking libertarian ass. Libertarians ain't winning shit, bro. We don't have the numbers to win anything. It's not embarrassing when libertarians lose because we don't have the numbers. You assholes do. And you assholes would rather do shit like this. And by the way, do you think I'm ever going to vote for you again when you come in and you do stuff like this? Do you think you're winning anyone's vote here? No, you're literally turning people off to allow these people to continue to kick your ass again and again and again. But go high five your friends, bro, and puff out your chest and feel really strong. And we'll all be laughing at you the entire time.
And build a relationship with those communities. Now, the other part of this is the geographic, and I think I have thought that for a while that DSA really does need to build in the Midwest. In terms of electoral politics, yes, we have some opportunities to expand our base as we get more people, say, on places like the Chicago City Council, or where I went to college, Northfield, Minnesota, which is a town outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul, that we need to think about how can we use that to expand our membership in areas where it's fairly small right now.
So I'm gonna go kind of fast. People talked about multiracial organizing mostly. The only thing that I have to add to that is that the only way to move in the right direction is to move. Mistakes will be made, and we are going to be a majority white organization for a long time, but that's okay. We are moving in the right direction, and we just need to keep organizing, keep bringing people in. And engage those new constituencies.
Minnesota
One of the
is
greatest
very
strengths
communist.
that we need to lean into
Extremely
more is that we are an
communist.
organization of queers. We are almost certainly
What?
and empirically the largest nationally organized force of LGBTQ people since at least ACT UP, if not before then.
Wow.
The only membership orgs in striking distance are union LGBTQ caucuses, and they represent a bounded population. So when it comes to geographic constituencies, we should be building in places where there are trans and queer people under threat of genocide right now, and creating a political home for them, even more than the political home that we all.
Emily says, I don't think conservatives understand that socialists sound better than they do. They don't understand this at all. The conservative right thinks this is still 2020 when they were staying home and these people were like burning shit down in the streets. And in 2020, these people did look more crazy than conservatives, but not anymore. Times have changed. It's 3 years later. And no, the conservative right does not understand that to normal people, to independents, to people who don't pay attention, these people sound so much more appealing than conservatives do right now. It's not even funny.
Already are, that will allow us to engage more fully in the tensions between identity-based politics and class-wide politics with a more authentic constituency, and also will allow us to engage in those strategic coalitions when we think about independent party building infrastructure with more densely POC-led membership, if we're bringing to the table that we're an extremely gay organization. The other thing that I want to say too, talking about being opportunistic in a good way, is that we need to use opportunities like this to reach out to LGBTQ plus people. And I want to shout out Chicago DSA member Dallas Knapp, who came up to me yesterday and asked me to do something from the panel here, which I'm going to do. I want everybody to take a second and take out their phones. Right now, Chicago is in a place where we have multiple union formations that are building LGBTQ plus constituencies. Berlin nightclub, one of the best nightclubs in the United States, just unionized, and they are going on strike right now. And so what I want people to do is to take out their phones, go to bit.ly/gays-on-strike. That's bit.ly/gays-on-strike. And you will see a strike fund for these nightclub workers that are part of the vanguard that is reforming the labor movement right now with unapologetically queer and trans working class people that are fully queer, fully working class. Doesn't work? Okay, great. All right, we will touch base. We'll figure out what that is and get that sent out to people.
Socialists always
so
suck
that
at
everybody
technology.
can donate.
It's
But for
so
all
reliable.
the press that's in the
So
room
reliable.
too, y'all should talk about it. We should use opportunities like this every single time we can. We should talk about how DSA is a gay organization. We are the political home of the queer and trans working class. Capital G gays, just like it should be.
Again, bit.ly/G gays -on strike. I'm gonna do like a very quick, what has DSA united around over the last 2 years, if anything? I'm kidding. And what can unite us over the next 2 years? We answer that question, then we're gonna go to Q&A. But let's see if we can do a lightning round on that.
I can start with, the YDSA perspective, I guess. So I think one of the things that's been really inspiring and productive in YDSA is we've started strategizing and creating a national cohort model where we are taking chapters that are organizing similar campaigns and facilitating relationships with them to collectively strategize, share experiences, and institutionalize knowledge. Out of these cohorts, we've, I think YDSA has been the key factor pushing the undergraduate student worker labor movement forward. And there are currently 30 union drives or unions on campuses across the country that have come as a result of work that YDSA members have been spearheading. I also think in YDSA, our annual winter conference and our summer convention are really productive spaces that enable us to discuss things and come to consensus across tendencies. And I'm really excited that the National Activist Conference proposal passed on the consent agenda, because I think bringing that to DSA will be really helpful for us too.
Well, I think the bottom line is organizing, working on our priority issues. The NPC is going to have to probably do a lot of work in terms of how to make it happen within the budget constraints that we have. But I think from yesterday, it seems pretty clear that the priority issues are not separable, that the electoral piece has to be connected with the labor piece, has to be connected with the Green New Deal, and so on, that we have to have this perspective in our organizing, that these are
We have about
connected.
half an hour
But
more, Jan.
Again, bottom line is what's going to bring the organization together and forward is organizing.
I think first and foremost is that we see DSA as the best political vehicle for socialism in this country in the longest time.
The DSA is the best political vehicle for socialism. So oftentimes what you'll hear people say is democratic socialism is not the same as just like normal socialism, because it's because people vote for it. But these people are flat out telling you that the Democratic Socialists of America are the delivery mechanism for socialism in the United States. Because just because you get people to vote for it by promising them free stuff does not actually make it less socialism than if people don't vote for it.
Yeah, maybe. Just making sure. Thought there was more unity on that. And I think that means making sure that we're investing in a strong organization. And one of the ways that we do that is one of the biggest ways that we stand out from other organizations, in that we are member funded, which is super important for us to be able to maintain our independence in the work that we do. And so that also means making hard asks. And I'll just take a moment to pitch income-based dues, which is very important. I know a lot of folks were at the socialist soiree last night. We're donating. I know Sean was, working it there. And so if you haven't already, really encourage folks to visit the GDC table and find out more about how you can switch to income-based dues. to make sure that we're investing in a socialist organization that can carry out the work that we are passing this weekend.
Yeah.
Ain't it the truth,
The only thing
Milo?
that I'll add,
Ain't
I
it
think
the truth?
synthesis is like the biggest point that I have seen from my vantage point, not being in the national leadership or as involved in national organizing and instead focusing on local organizing. Taking the priorities that were passed at the 2021 convention, the beginnings of the ways that we were working on Green New Deal national pushes, seeing that filter into local chapters, into state chapters, seeing the way that the Green New Deal for public schools started as a federal appropriations push and then became a priority chapter in LA. It became what Chicago Teachers Union was able to consolidate around with a climate justice committee and like has percolated out from there, seeing the way that in Chicago we were able to synthesize labor and electoral work last October while we got ready to endorse a round of candidates, while also keeping our eye on the horizon of a potential UPS Teamsters strike, knowing that all of those elements could come together, writing a campaign plan and then sticking to that campaign plan, making sure that we were able to leverage our position within the national organization and work with people on the NLC and then create the Strike Ready campaign, which has led to this huge outpouring of solidarity, everybody being strike ready. And then now all of us here in the room for the largest gathering of organized socialists in the United States since the 2019 convention in Atlanta. That is unity. That is power. That is what has the capitalist class quaking in their boots, is us being together in this room. And don't fucking forget it.
All right, so let's go to some Q&A.
Oh, Q&A is the best
until
part.
The end of the session, we have until.
Okay, as a reminder, Q&A is always the best part because it's when they say the quiet part out loud. Now, typically socialist conferences do Q&A a little bit differently. I don't know if they're going to do it this way, but don't be surprised if you see them take a bunch of questions and then they address them all at once. It's a weird thing. I don't know why socialists do it like this, but don't be surprised if that's what we see.
10:30. People can queue up at the mics on either side. I think we have some. We've got some runners, right?
Howdy.
Yeah.
Alexander Hernandez, thank y'all for your service. Much appreciated. This is sort of a little bit of a follow-up to the last question. And I'm actually going to quote Chris here from her 2019 speech at convention and ask y'all what do you think has changed, if anything? Part of it goes, we have, excuse me, dropped my glasses. It's the mask, I apologize. It says here, we have accomplished too little, too many grievances, complaints, etc. Many people elected were new and didn't know how much work it would be. Too many crises instead of strategic conversations. This is not good for the MPC or the organization. To the new MPC, do not repeat our mistakes. Do not focus on incrimination, act like a leadership body should. What will strengthen us? What will make us a force in American politics? So my question to y'all is, what has changed, if anything, and what will make us that force? Thank you.
Well, I'm surprised. I do vaguely remember this once Alexander started going into it. I mean, I left the NPC in 2019, so I don't know exactly what's been going on with the NPC. It doesn't seem quite as fractured as it was in the 2 years there that I was on, where there were really terrible disputes, differences that made the NPC not functional. My impression is that under Christian's leadership, that hasn't been as true, although I know there have still been fights. And I think that post-2019, there was an effort to build the organization into something that did have priorities, that stuck to those priorities, that didn't let differences get in the way of that. There's still a ways to go, no doubt about it. The organization isn't perfect yet and probably won't be, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
I would just say that what has changed since then is that there was a global pandemic that killed millions of people and hollowed out every single remnant of mass organization, including this one that was left in the United States. And that we spent a lot of time in those 2 years from 2019 to 2021 doing what we could to come together, unify, to create that organizational infrastructure, and that we were able to keep a solid foundation. I think also, we are dealing with the climate crisis coming faster and harder than any scientist predicted. The country of Iran is about to shut down entirely for 2 days because of heat waves, to say nothing of the air quality and everything else. We are in the task right now of us organizing as hard and as fast as we can for the rest of our lives, and things are still going to get worse no matter what, but that doesn't mean that we give up the fight, because every moment that we spend, every minute that we building organization, creating that solid foundation is something that is going to create a lasting, strong foundation for future generations and for us. And that I think people are starting to understand the stakes of that in really true and deep ways, and understanding that this is a sacrifice, and it is something that we are going to be in the struggle for the rest of our lives.
I think to Sean's point, so much of the political climate is increasingly hostile to us. And I think that that's sort of creating the urgency of the task before us while understanding that the type of work that we need to do takes time. So I think sometimes there's that frustration of not being where we want to be. But I think it's really important for us, as Marxists, to be very material about where we are, and really operating from that place, right? We can't operate from a place of our potential, but of where we are in this moment, and what we can do long term. I think it's been great to see folks really reaching out. I want to also just specifically highlight the work of our international committee in reaching out to comrades from all over the world, and being able to talk to folks who are engaging in struggles that are very similar to ours in other parts of the world. And one of the main things that I constantly hear from those folks is that they need us to win. In the heart of empire, they need us to win, right? There are people rooting for us all over the world to win. Chavez is one. Sorry, Sean just said Chavez is watching.
Indeed. No one should be surprised.
For real, it makes a big difference to know that there
Hang
are
on.
people who
Let's
are
go back.
supporting us.
The responsible thing to do is to go back and listen again. Okay, whatever. Where did she say that? Let's listen again.
I think to Sean's point, so much of the political climate is increasingly hostile to us. And I think that that's sort of creating the urgency of the task before us while understanding that the type of work that we need to do takes time. So I think sometimes there's that frustration of not being where we want to be. But I think it's really important for us, as Marxists, to be very material about where we are, and really operating from that place, right? We can't operate from a place of our potential, but of where we are in this moment, and what we can do long term. I think it's been great to see folks really reaching out. I want to also just specifically highlight the work of our international committee in reaching out to comrades from all over the world, and being able to talk to folks who are engaging in struggles that are very similar to ours in other parts of the world. And one of the main things that I constantly hear from those folks is that they need us to win. In the heart of empire, they need us to win, right? There are people rooting for us all over the world to win. Chavez is watching. Sorry, Sean just said Chavez is watching. but I mean, for real, it makes a big difference to know that there are people who are supporting us in doing that work. And I think that given that, it's also really important that us as an organization, I think regardless of what comes out this weekend in terms of the things that pass, regardless of the NPC that ends up getting elected, we need us all to come together to root for those things and those people to succeed. Because that is who we've collectively decided. We need to uphold our collective decisions, and we need to do that with like the fervor that's needed, and also making sure, I mean, for me, regardless of who ends up on the next NPC, I'm very much committed to supporting that NPC and being successful and being able to carry out the political will of this body, because the things that we're doing here matter. Otherwise, why are we here? So again, keeping in mind that there are people who want us to succeed, and I think we need to want us to succeed just as much.
Yeah, I think I'll just go back to a point I made earlier, which is that to have an internal democracy, we need to be committed to building that and working with people in the organization to build that. I think oftentimes we're very quick to react to things, and all of us would benefit from slowing down a bit, processing the political debates that we're having with comrades, and thinking about how can we put our politics first and avoid kind of descending into interpersonal conflicts. I think, yeah, I guess I'll just end there.
I think we can go to the next question.
I'd like to come back to the question of sort of the ultra-right and fascism, and, and what Christian was just referring to in terms
the
of
ultra-right,
an environment that's hostile to us in terms of thinking about 2024. Because in this convention, it seems to me that a lot of the debates and resolutions are focused in one way or another on the relationship of DSA to the Democrats, and we're not actually focusing that much on the ultra-right and what our relationship there is.
What is the ultra-right?
I'm not putting this forward as an argument about anything to do with the Democrats, but about the problem of every time I try and raise this in Portland, the immediate pivot is, yeah, we've got to find other ways to fight the fascists, but we got to break with the Dems, or whatever, some other kind of position, right? And what I want to ask about is, it seems like the Democrats.
That actually gives us some insight into what happened at the convention, though, because he's basically saying that all of the questions at the convention were about, do we break with the Democratic Party? Which is interesting, considering these people are driving the talking points of the Democratic Party. I don't think they realize they're driving the talking points of the Democratic Party, but they are. So it'd be interesting to see if they tried to break with them.
Are determined to nominate Joe Biden, and he's a weak candidate, and I don't see anybody who's going to be to Joe Biden what Gene McCarthy was in 1968, who drove Johnson out of the 68 race. So I think there's a very good likelihood that some MAGA candidate is going to win the presidency. And what should DSA be doing to prepare for that kind of eventuality? And that's partly in terms of fighting for the communities who are going to need to be having defense, but also it's about us, the possibility that DSA itself may become a target of the revanchism. They were already resentful in 2016, 2020, and they're even more so now, so what should DSA do to be prepared for the possibility of a MAGA presidency?
I'll just jump in real quick and say that this was a question in fall of 2020 that we engaged in very seriously, based on the democratic decision that was made at the 2019 convention, the Bernie or Bust resolution, and seeing the possibility of a coup happening in November 2020, and making a strategic decision that we were going to mobilize our chapters, have people recruit as many members as possible, prepare for any potential political reality, be in strategic coalition with other organizations that were getting ready for mass demonstrations. Those organizations, that coalition, with the threat of possible street violence in a few isolated cities, they tried to demobilize everybody. DSA was one of the only organizations that had their people go out on the street and actually ensure that our members were mobilized for whatever happened. It was them, and it was like CTU here in Chicago threatening a general strike. That was about
Chicago
it.
Teachers Union.
And we caught a lot of
That's
shit
what he
for
means,
it
the Teachers
from
Union.
a lot of NGO people for putting our members in danger. But you know what? We actually were able to build bonds. We were able to have people flood into the organization in November 2020. And we need to be thinking very seriously about what that looks like and creating those strategies for 2024 election as well. Is that no matter what happens with the things that are outside of our control.
We have a super chat from our Queen Beth. Hubby is coming home in a bit. He's bringing a gift for his queen, soon to be Her Highness. I'll catch you all in another dimension. Have a good night, Queen Beth. We'll see you next time. Grant, the right is not going to war. God, conservatives will not leave their house wearing a red baseball hat because they are afraid of what will happen if they wear a red baseball hat. You're not going to war, bro. Ain't gonna happen. Never going to happen. I cannot. This is like a serious thing. And the right's like, Civil War, Civil War, Civil War, Civil War, Civil War, 1776, 1776, 1776. It's not going to happen because the right is never going to do it. You've been talking about Civil War for a long time. It ain't never going to happen. The rioters, the people burning down the cities, were unopposed. Trump literally turns himself in. I just can't. And listen, man, this is not Grant's fault. It is the fault of conservative influencers who have lied to people like Grant for years. If there's anyone we should be pissed off at and anyone we should make fun of, it's not the innocent people who were lied to, although they should have used better discernment to know they were being lied to. It is the conservative influencers that keep lying to their audiences over and over and over again every single day that have caused this problem. And people like Tim Pool, you're right, bot. And people like Tim Pool, people like Steve Bannon, people like Charlie Kirk, people like Jack Posobiec, people like Tim Pool, like publications like the Post Millennial. Like, they lie to their audiences over and over and over again, and it gives their audiences a really distorted view of reality. And it's like, you can't talk sense to them because they don't want to hear it. Anyway, we got about 20 minutes left, guys. Let's get through this.
With the things that are inside our control, we need to build organization, and we need to be prepared to stand up for each other no matter what happens.
I'll also say, I think.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, they won't talk about this.
preparation
They
is
won't.
key,
Daily
but
Wire will
also,
never show you this.
We aren't just sort of
never
witnessing things. We can prevent things by making very strategic interventions, by not just sort of relegating ourselves to having things happen to us, but making things happen. And I think that part of that is when we were discussing this in 2020, and again, I think there's very similar conditions in 2024. And this is part of a conversation that we had on the NPC just recently about the 2024 elections, is like, we can not like what the race is or whatever, but it doesn't mean it isn't happening, and it doesn't mean that it isn't important to engage with the fact that a lot of people are going to be looking at this and acknowledging that this is something that if there is an outcome where someone like Donald Trump is president again, it's only going to exacerbate the political conditions that we're organizing under. It's only going to exacerbate the culture wars that the right is winning. It is going to continue to
The
move
right is winning. The right is not
Republican
winning the
Party
culture war.
further and further to
Wrong.
the right, to the point where some of the things that they're brazenly saying now are things that were being said by folks that were considered fringe, in 2020. And we have to take that seriously.
Like what?
And I think for a DSA, that does not mean endorsing Joe Biden. But it does mean, I mean, in case people were worried, that's not what it means. But what it does mean is that making sure that we are making sure that people are giving people a reason to go out and vote. And I think that means making sure that we are running Democratic Socialist candidates all across the country who are going to drive people to the ballot box to make sure that they are making themselves be heard in whatever liberal democracy we have left, because it's also important that while it's not perfect, that we protect every right that we have, because again, they are coming for every right that we have. So we have to protect the things that we have now and then continue to move the needle forward. And I think that's really important. And I'm not afraid to say that's super important for us, particularly in areas where right-wing violence looks a lot different. People are carrying AR-15s in Texas on a regular fucking basis. It's not child's play. So making sure that we're taking the stakes seriously, not just, saying, well, at least we kept our hands clean. We're sitting here with a pure ideological position. Well, that's great. People are fucking dying. So I think we need to move past that.
Yeah, I think DSA really needs to orient itself very seriously towards the millions of people across this country who are seeing this shift to the right, but don't know what they can do about it and are feeling scared. I think we need to be leaders and pushing to grow social movements against attacks on our rights. This October, we held a day of action across the country in YDSA for reproductive justice that turned 5,000 students out on more than 50 college campuses across the country. And our abortion access campaign at NYU grew out of that day of action. So I think we need to think about how can we mobilize people and use that to spearhead longer term organizing projects. And I said this earlier on the question about fascism on the panel, but ultimately, the only thing that can defeat the far right's power is if we build power of our own. We need to commit to doing the long-term, deep organizing work of building class consciousness, creating a militant worker movement in this country that can challenge the power of the far right
proletariat.
Anything else will not be enough.
It's talking about the dictatorship of the proletariat. That's what that is.
Well, there's not much I can add to what's been said because I agree with it. I do want to say that I'm not sure the reference to 1968 is right. I remember going to Wisconsin in '68, being clean for Gene, organizing students, and that fact that McCarthy won in Wisconsin meant that Johnson got out of the race. Nothing like that I can see is going to happen this year. There's a few candidates, Marianne Williamson and Cornel West, but there isn't the mobilization that there was around McCarthy. The second thing is I actually say that I'm the original Pollyanna. I'm always looking for those happy outcomes, and I think they'll occur. And while it might not be exactly the happy outcome we want, I don't take for granted that Trump is going to win. These criminal cases against him are ongoing. I don't think we know what effect that might have. I don't think we know what effect.
So I was in a Twitter space with the Krasentines the other day. I've been hanging out in a lot of the Twitter spaces with the Krasentines, honestly, because they're not that bad. Like, I actually just find them to be like nice and like cordial for the most part. Anyway, so I was in a Twitter space with the Krasentines and a whole bunch of other people that are like moderate lefties, like they're not socialists. They're more like moderate and centrist. And I asked them, I was like, do you guys really think that Trump is going to jail? And hand to God, they really believe in their heart of hearts that Donald Trump is going to jail. They really believe that these indictments are real and that it's not political persecution and that Donald Trump just committed crimes and now he's going to pay for those crimes and that he's going to go to jail. They truly and sincerely believe that. And I was kind of like, "Oh, well, everyone is allowed to have an opinion." I was honestly, I was like, yeah, yes, Reagan was there. She was in the space when they said that. I was like, and I was playing, so I was like, you guys really think he's going to jail? They're like, yes. I was like, oh shit. But this lady's actually making a good point where she's like, we don't know what the impact of all these indictments is going to have. Trump is going to raise millions and millions and millions of dollars off of these indictments. That's what's going to happen. Trump is going to raise millions of dollars off of that mugshot. That's what's going to happen.
Any Supreme Court decisions might have. And I think that there is every possibility that Biden will win, and that we need a strategy of what to do to build our ranks as sort of the Democratic neoliberal position folds. So we need to think about, Trump is over here, Biden's over here. What happens if each of them win? What's our strategy? What kind of organizing do we need to do? And how can we, in either case, fight the right, which is going to continue its attacks?
So just what I want to do we're going to do 2 more questions, but I'd like the next 2 people in line to ask their questions, and then the group can answer both of your questions. So we only have a little bit of time left. So I see Miriam at the mic.
Hi, I'm Miriam. I'm from Queens, New York. I enjoyed listening to
By the way, and I thought of this because ZXY says Trump is a billionaire. They are all in the Krasentine space. They were also convinced that Trump is about to run out of money, and that's why he used a bail bondsman. Because he's about to run out of money. Trump didn't have $200,000 to put up for bail. The truth is that it just like makes more sense to use a bail bondsman. It's easier. Like Trump only has to put up like 20 grand. Like, why would you put up $200,000 when you can just put up 20 grand and it doesn't even really make a difference? So yeah, they honest to God believe that Trump is about to go bankrupt because he's just completely out of money. I was like, all right.
And hearing you address a lot of the things I'm thinking about. One of the things I've been struggling with a lot is is the question of which, I forget your name, the youth section person, YDSA person.
Jake.
Jamie?
Jake,
sorry. When you said that we should be setting the strategies for projects we're engaged with other groups, because I have a problem with how often DSA seems to say we're not going to be part of any coalition we don't start or we don't run. And I particularly think that becomes an issue when we are either in a geographic community that we're not that big in, or a demographic community. So you're in a Black neighborhood and your chapter doesn't have that many Blacks, or an issue in which we haven't had a big presence. And I thought it would be interesting to hear people talk about how we participate in things where we're not the natural leaders and we want to make sure that it meets certain criteria for us, but maybe we're proving ourselves in that coalition. Or maybe when do we just join something to help? So that's all.
Next question.
All right. Hey, comrades. Diana, she, her, with New York City DSA, but a University of Florida alumni. Go Gators. I used to organize with the United Faculty of Florida there, my first organizing job. So great to hear from YDSA at UF. My question is really about some of the reflections that you all shared about being in this together for the long haul and what that really means for us in terms of that we're going to fuck up, that we're going to make mistakes, and how do we lose gracefully, and how do we integrate lessons into our organizing moving forward. I'm wondering if y'all could share from your personal experiences moments in which you've made a mistake or moments in which you've gone the wrong direction. How have you redirected? How have you lost gracefully? How have you integrated lessons into your organizing? And then the other part is we are going to have conflict. We are going to have disagreement. How do we turn that maybe interpersonal conflict into camaraderie political disagreement? Where we can come out as a better or as better organizers moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for questions. So we're just gonna
Hang on. Xander, socialists do a weird thing at their conferences where they will often take more than one question and then they'll answer both questions at the same time. It's just a weird socialist thing. You didn't miss anything. It's just their thing.
I was gonna answer those questions and then we're gonna wrap up.
Well, the second question first. I mean, the most immediate mistake that comes to mind was as a member of that NPC, some of the events at the very first meeting, I think, drove the NPC apart in a way, and I was chairing, and I think I didn't do an effective job at that, but it taught me some lessons that I think ultimately didn't help that NPC, but maybe helped the future workings of the different NPCs. And I think, if I could go back and do it over again, there are things I would do differently, but we haven't invented time travel yet, so no such luck. On the coalitions, I would be interested in what Jacob says, but I do think that we need to think about coalitions. If we think about the political spectrum in the United States, well, here, this is your left, I guess, looking up here. We're over here, and then we have somewhere along here the neoliberal Democrats, and then we come over here to the Republicans and the right. Now, there are groups to our left, but if we think about we want to be 200,000 or 1 million members in the next several years, where are those members going to come from? They're going to come from over here, to our right, but to our immediate right. And so we need to be in coalitions where we're actually working with those people and have opportunities to interact with them that will allow us to grow our membership and convince them that where they need to be is in DSA.
Yeah, I think building on that, there's definitely a lot of work that happens in coalitions that DSA is not leading in that socialists should be supporting, both because we want to win material demands for the working class, but also because the working class is the only agent of change, and we need to move workers into action, whether or not they're socialists yet. But I think it's important that we as DSA members are constantly orienting around the question of how can we use our work to grow the socialist movement? So I think even if we're
all right, I want to answer this question because it gives me a chance to piss off conservatives. Gabriel says, if you're a libertarian, how do you usually vote, right or left? Because we all know libertarians won't win. Well, if there's a libertarian candidate that I feel like supporting, I vote for the libertarian candidate because I'm not going to vote for your shitty Republican candidate when I think there's a better candidate on the ballot. And I don't vote based on who I think is going to win. I vote based on who I think is the best candidate. On that point, If there is not a libertarian candidate on the ballot and I am left with the choices of a shitty Democrat candidate or a shitty Republican candidate, then I will not vote for the Republican. I won't vote for the Democrat either, but you don't get my vote by default just because you claim that conservatives and libertarians have a lot in common when they do actually not. They have some things in common, but they don't have enough in common. Conservatives and libertarians are not the same thing. They're not the same thing by a long shot. Libertarians are not left or right. And you don't get my vote for your shitty conservative candidates. And they're always shitty conservative candidates, Gabriel. Let's be honest here. You guys run horrible fucking candidates. So no, you don't get my vote by default just because I don't like Democrats. If I don't like your candidate, I'm not voting for your candidate. I am currently planning on not voting for anyone in 2024. I will not vote for Donald Trump in 2024. I will not vote for Ron DeSantis in 2024. The only GOP candidate that I will vote for right now is Vivek Ramaswamy. That is it. And we all know that Vivek is not going to win the nomination because conservatives would never be smart enough to nominate someone that can actually win the general election. So no, I will not be voting for Republicans. And you guys can cry about that all you want. Won't happen. Nominate good candidates. Nominate people who don't suck. You guys don't get libertarian votes by default. Exactly. Conservatives tend to be just as authoritarian as the left, and that is the obvious difference between conservatives and libertarians. Conservatives are authoritarian. Bro, you think conservatives are against social programs? Really? Really? When was the last time any conservative politician cut a social program? When was the last time conservative politicians reduced spending? When was the last time conservative politicians eliminated any of the departments that do nothing and just suck money over and over and over again? When was the last time conservatives didn't actively support socialism? Bro. Mike Pence is the fucking Antichrist. I would vote for Joe fucking Biden before I would ever vote for Mike Pence. And it's not even close. All right. I got that out of my system. We're wrapping up, guys. About 4 more minutes.
Not leading in a coalition, it's important that we are bringing our socialist politics to it, that we're identifying as DSA members, and that we are connecting the issue that this coalition is organizing around to the fight for socialism. On the second question, I think it's really important that we build a culture of reflection in the organization, and that doesn't come unless we are very intentional about it. We should be carving out
Ron Paul
times
was a long
to
time ago.
debrief our organizing
But yeah,
campaigns,
he was an
whether they're
exception.
successful or losses, and not just have those conversations, but really think about how can we institutionalize this knowledge and how are we actually going to apply it to our future work. Something we've done the past 2 years on the National Coordinating Committee is hold an in-person retreat before our winter conference in YDSA. And that's allowed us to really just look at the entire past 6 months of our term and then use that reflection to set the priorities for the rest of our term so that we can use the time we have left to have the biggest impact in the world.
In terms of mistakes, so my first or second year of organizing when I was still a student at UC San Diego, I was serving on student government and also part of a group called the Student Sustainability Collective. We were leading a BDS campaign on campus. I had just joined the National Leadership for Students for Justice in Palestine. I was also building the California Student Union. And this is not me rattling off a list of accomplishments. This is me talking about how I was working myself to the bone. It was my last year of college. I was so burned out that I was
Autumn,
snapping
I
at
can
people.
literally
I was not
block you
following through on
anytime.
basic tasks. And somebody
You're
took me
here
aside
by
and had
my
a sit down with
graces.
me and was like, Sean, you are really burnt out right now. You need to take a break. And this is like a lesson that I've learned somewhat, and I think I've gone through cycles of taking on a lot of work, getting burnt out, taking a break, and then there being a convincing political case or an emotional case to step back in, sometimes sooner than I would like, but still taking that on. And each time it has brought reflection, and each time I think back to that interaction that we had right when I was forming my organizing habits. And so that's something that for me is really important, is to think about as people are starting to engage in the lifelong work of being a socialist militant, of being cadre, of being the standing army that we are in this room. The lessons and the habits that you form and have formed now are going to inform the work that you do for the rest of your life, and you will remember all of these things. So think about them as you bring them in, and that goes for coalitions too. And it's why, for me, we need to engage strategically in coalitions, because we need to be building our power as an independent base. It's the only reason our member-funded independent organization, our power comes from how many people we can fucking bring to a meeting and how many people we can show up at a demonstration, and that's fine to not be leading a coalition. We should be doing it strategically, but we don't want to burn out our leaders who also have to bring the organization along and train more leaders who can train more leaders. That's something Ella Baker said in the 60s. That was her definition of a leader. I agree with it extremely strongly. It's the only path forward.
All right, that's our panel. I want to thank our panelists, Christian, Sean, Chris, and Jake. Let's get a round of applause for our panelists.
All right, guys, I guess that is the end of our presentation for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the future of the Democratic Socialists of America. We'll continue to keep an eye on them, even though the Democratic Socialists of America are not the most socialist people we watch, not by a long shot. A quick programming note. Well, let's do the super chat from Rottweiler first. Rottweiler says, to the Deuce Vault people, to the Deuce Vault crowd, if you genuinely think Pence or any authoritarian is a good candidate, don't put a surprise Pikachu face every time you lose. Oh God, ain't that the truth, Rottweiler? Ain't that the truth? All right, guys. Just as a so quick order of housekeeping. Next Friday and Saturday, and possibly Monday, I need to look at the schedule specifically. Next Friday and Saturday, I am taking the days off. I am sorry, but there's some other stuff that I have to do. That means that next Saturday, we will not have Socialism Saturday. Again, I'm sorry, but sometimes I have things I need to do, okay? And next Friday, we will not have happy hour. And then I have to look at the schedule for Monday. I'm not sure yet, but I suspect I'm going to need to take not this coming Monday, but next Monday off as well. I promise that this is necessary, all right? But I do hope you enjoyed Socialism Saturday. We do Socialism Saturday on most Saturdays at 6 p.m. And as a reminder, tomorrow in the supporter Discord, we are watching The Princess Bride in honor of Sin, because it is Sin's birthday selection. Sin's birthday was this past week, and we will be watching The Princess Bride. How you get access to the supporter Discord is you head over to my Substack. You sign up for $8 a month or $80 a year. You can also become a member of this here YouTube channel. You can become a member of my locals. You can become a member of my Patreon. Tomorrow on my Substack, I'm going to send out a newsletter that looks a little bit like this, except it's not going to be for this week. It's going to be for this past week, not the one before. So I'm going to send out a newsletter that looks like this on the Substack in the afternoon. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Substack, you're going to, under this red box, you're going to find access to the supporter Discord to join it and come and join us for movie night. You're also going to find the Zoom links for the Zoom calls that I'm going to do on Monday and Wednesday, and any other supporter perks as well. So guys, your support does keep me in business. I can't do it without you. Please head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. That really does help me out. You can also head over to the Unwoke art store, which is unwokeart.com. There we go. And you can get the Trump indictment victory shirt, as we were just looking at. You can also get the brand new Trump mug shot collection, encouraging everyone to resist fascism. And you can also get the Be Bourgeois shirt. You can get the Socialism Saturday shirt. Lots of other stuff over there as well. All your purchases do go to support the work I'm doing, and you get something cool as a result. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow for movie night. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.